If you treat AI like any other technology that you've adopted in your company, it's not going to work out as well as you'd like. It's not a technology thing, it's a people thing.
Welcome to The Data Chief. I'm your host, Cindy Housen. Today, we're joined by Vinay Gidwani, Chief Product Officer at One Digital, one of the largest independent insurance, employee benefits, HR, and financial services firms in the U.S. Vinay's path spans the MIT Media Lab, building and scaling startups such as Maxwell Health, and leading tech strategy for one of the largest COVID vaccination efforts in the U.S. In this episode, we'll talk about AI as talent, managing a hybrid human and AI workforce, and what it takes to do that in a way that elevates people, not replaces them. Vinay, welcome to The Data Chief.
Thank you, Cindy. It's wonderful to be here.
Hi, I'm Cindy Housen, host of The Data Chief. If you've heard me talk about data and AI before, you know that I believe everyone, not just data teams, should be able to get the insights they trust. That's why I'm proud to say that ThoughtSpot sponsors this podcast. ThoughtSpot's agentic analytics platform lets you simply ask a question in natural language and get clear, governed answers right when you need them. No fuss, no waiting. It's why companies like Cisco, Lyft, Hyatt, and Roche count on ThoughtSpot. See what the future of analytics feels like at thoughtspot.com. And our listeners travel vicariously through our guests. So where in the world are you joining us from, Vinay?
Well, today I am very up far north in Edmonton, Alberta, which is where I grew up.
Oh, very nice. And I had to look at it on the map. So north of Calgary, west of Saskatchewan. Do I have that right?
You do have that right, yes.
Yes.
But it's very far north of everything else.
Yes. No, it brings me back to my Dow days where we have a facility near there. So, but Vinay, let's start with one of your favorite coworkers, Ben. Mm-hmm. Tell us about Ben.
Yeah. Well, Ben is an AI coworker that we hired a few months ago. And Ben's specialty, no big surprise, is benefits consulting. So Ben has been trained on the best and most comprehensive strategies to help employers work with their benefits plan. So as you probably know, and many people here have experienced, the health insurance premiums are going up every year, and many small businesses in the country are faced with this challenge on how to lower costs and still support their employees effectively. So Ben helps our benefits consultants figure that out for our clients. So Ben has extensive training on all the different types of health plans, the different types of strategies to lower costs. And our consultants use Ben every day to ask it questions about their clients' unique situations. So you could upload documents, you could brainstorm with Ben. Ben is trained on the best practices of our organization and the most effective way to lower costs.
Yeah. And as we are at the start of a year, and of course, health insurance premiums are always on everyone's mind, a lot of increases for many people, myself included. I find it interesting. We talk about agentic AI and AI agents. As a chief product officer, you actually gave your AI agent a human name, a non-intimidating name with a nice play on words with benefits. Take us a little bit through that process and people's reactions to this.
Sure. Well, the first thing is that we don't call it agentic AI. We actually differentiate between three different types of AI that we have in our organization. So we have AI coworkers who are really designed to help you think. Second are agents, which are designed to carry out a task, sometimes autonomously. And then the third are builders. They help you produce some sort of asset, whether it's a piece of software, a video, or something like that. And we tend to focus a lot more on the coworkers because what we're trying not to do, and by not using the word agent in that context, is have something replace a human. Really, what we're trying to do is have AI complement and in some ways superpower our human talent that exists today. So the first thing that we did initially is just try to use the right language to frame how AI can really make a difference. I think when people hear the word agent, first of all, it's not very clear what that actually means, but sometimes they think of some, cyborg trying to take their job or something like that. So coworker is a little bit more of a friendly and appropriate way of framing this. The second thing we did is that, and you might have caught that I used the word hire. So we hired Ben. So we actually take a very HR-centric view on how we think about AI, in that AI is talent, and you have to treat AI in the same way that you treat the talent within your organization. And most specifically, take the time to hire the right talent that makes sense for your company. And so when we bring in an AI coworker, we actually hire them. We write a job description with the human managers in the organization. Those job descriptions look like anything that you would see on Indeed or any job board. We feed that job description into what we sort of think as a vanilla version of a coworker. And then the coworker essentially embodies the job requirements that we've asked it to entail. And then we intern the coworker. So the coworker actually works as an intern in the organization for several weeks. We have a lot of interns that we've not unhired, just like you would normally have interns out of college that you may not feel meet the bar of your organization. Once they pass the intern phase, we then promote them to an apprenticeship. And at the apprenticeship level is when we start to build out the rest of the resume of the coworker. So we give it best practices, we give it guardrails, we give it actually a human manager. So every coworker in the organization has a real human being who's their supervisor. They're responsible for managing what the coworker does and their training. We even give every coworker a personality. We really believe that these coworkers are, and as we've all learned over the last couple of years, you can really get fooled into thinking that you're talking to a real person.
Yes.
So we want to make sure that all those people, so to speak, in the organization meet our cultural norms. We spend so much time making sure our own human talent fits the culture of our organization. We need to do the same for AI. So we build out that resume and then we promote them if they pass all the tests and all the beta testing with our humans into a full-time role. So we have about a dozen coworkers right now. Each of them have unique names. I'm not responsible for naming them, thank God. But somebody else on the team, they work with the manager to name them appropriately. And anybody in our organization can go to our corporate intranet and view essentially like a roster. They can read the resumes of all of the coworkers and then pick them off the shelf and start working with them. And they all are designed to address specific needs within our business, whether it's benefits or retirement plans or compliance related issues or property and casualty. There's a whole bunch of different coworkers that have specific skills.
Yeah. And so this is quite a novel framing, Vinay. And I would dare say, for those not in the AI industry, everyone's afraid about their jobs being replaced, about all these systems being built, maybe without adequate guardrails and what have you. The way you have framed it as just another coworker, as one type, it just seems so much more approachable, which is one reason why I wanted to have you on the podcast. But why do you think the industry has not been doing this so far? Or do you think 2026 will be the year that we frame it this way?
Well, I hope so. I think part of the reason why the industry has not sort of embraced these concepts is that I think that those that are leading the conversation in the industry today are primarily technologists who don't think necessarily from a human-centric point of view. That's a blanket statement. There are many people in the industry who think differently about this as well. Part of the reason that we do this is because, One Digital serves about 100,000 employers and their workforces around the country. Our job, our service to the country is to help employers serve their employees in the best way possible through benefits, retirement plans, all those things that we care about as workers in this country. So we took it upon ourselves to figure this out because we're in the business of that. So whether it's health insurance plans or making sure your employees are saving for retirement or handling this massive transformation that we're going through with AI in our workforce, we took it upon ourselves to figure this out because we are a human-centric organization. We pride ourselves on that. I talk to a lot of HR people every week and HR leaders across many different types of organizations, whether they're tech companies or industrial companies or nursing homes or whatever it may be. And I think that more HR people need to start to take hold of this conversation. If you treat AI like any other technology that you've adopted in your company, it's not going to work out as well as you'd like. It's not like a CRM or an ERP or any other IT system that you deploy. It is very, very different. And so I think it's a different approach. And I would hope to see more HR leaders take the mantle and say, I'm going to lead the adoption of AI in our company. It's not a technology thing. It's a people thing.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And you and I met at GAI Insights World, and maybe you heard the same talk from the CIO of Liberty Mutual, who said for this type of mass transformation, the human change, the people change management has to be a 3-to-1 ratio of human change versus tech. And she felt we are woefully underestimating the need for attention to this. I would dare say that your approach of actually treating AI as a coworker, having HR and other agents potentially manage this coworker, going from the intern to the apprentice to the full-fledged agent, it just makes it all easier. What are your thoughts here?
It definitely makes it more palatable to an employee population because they are not thinking of this as I'm training somebody to replace my job. And, we've gone through waves of this. So like if you remember 20 years ago, people were worried about having somebody from offshore come and visit their office and then they would learn your job and they're going to take that job offshore. The same idea, I'm training an AI agent to take my job and people were traumatized by that first experience or are being re-traumatized by it now. I think if we have to be very careful in how we frame these things. And I want to be clear, it's not a framing or a spin so that we can ultimately still replace people's jobs. I think that people can see through that very quickly.
Yeah.
We're very, very deliberate about the principles behind which we deploy AI. There are two things that we regularly say. I say in almost every meeting that I have with our people. The two principles that drive AI adoption and use in our company is number one, to give people the gift of time back. It is the number one thing that you see and it's interesting when you look at this is because if you ask people, okay, well, how do you feel about work? And this is the same in our company as well, is that they feel overwhelmed, stressed. They feel they don't have enough time in the day to do the job that they're being asked to do. And many times they don't feel like they're doing the things that they enjoy doing at their jobs because they're doing a lot of things that they don't. So I try to tell people, look, there are things that are part of your job that you really like. And invariably, many things that people like are the human elements that like spending time with other people. They like to collaborate with people. They like to build relationships. They like to actually talk to their client and to serve them in the way that they want to. So we say, look, we can give you that gift of time back. Those hours that you were spending in the week doing something that felt unproductive but necessary, well, let AI take care of that. So you have more time to do something else. The second thing that we hear, and again, I think this is consistent for many industries, is that they're overwhelmed with the deluge of data, and they're overwhelmed with what's the right decision. There's so many things to know. There's so many data points to understand. There's so many new concepts in every industry to try to understand, certainly in ours. And so what we say to them is that AI can give you better insights. It can help you make better decisions. So when we talk about giving people the gift of time back and helping them make better decisions, then it becomes a lot more acceptable. It becomes a lot more welcomed. Because what we're not saying is, hey, there are things that you do in your job, and this thing is going to learn those things so that you don't have a job anymore, right?
Yeah, no, that's terrible.
I think that it's terrible. And obviously people aren't that abrupt about it. But when you see headlines of organizations laying off thousands of people, you see headlines about people not able to get jobs in certain sectors because AI is taken off, it's hard not to think, well, that's coming for me. And so I think that it's really incumbent on HR leaders, chief people officers, CEOs of businesses to own this conversation. What I tell people all the time, and I'm a technologist, so I feel like I can say this, is that you don't want the IT people in your organization leading this conversation. Like I said, this is not a CRM adoption strategy.
No.
This is not digital transformation. This is very, very different.
And it is, yeah. So I would say it's a business strategy. And AI is just one tool in the toolbox, but highly disruptive. So as I parse some of the points that you made, Vinay, another thing about the model of how you've brought these AI workers into One Digital, do you also envision having AI managers that are evaluating the AI coworkers? What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, like I said earlier, we do have, every coworker has a human supervisor. This was a really important element of how this all works. Because one, you need to make sure that your AI performs really well. And I often, again, tell people that you spend so much time making sure that you have the right talent in your organization. But then when you let all these AI agents, coworkers, whatever you want to call them, chatbots into your company, all of a sudden it's like to forgive the notion, but it's like a bunch of snakes coming into the company and walking around doing things. And you have no idea what they're doing and how they're doing them and how they're treating your people, most importantly. So it's really important to make sure that humans supervise what these do. I'll give you an example. So Ben supervisor Shelly. Shelly's a real person. Shelly's one of our most amazing benefits consultants. She has clients that love her. She's been in the business for decades. So we took Shelly out of the field and said, look, Shelly, I know your clients love you. You can still have them, but we want you to manage Ben. And your job, basically your full-time job now, is to effectively train Ben, supervise what Ben does every day, review how Ben is being accepted and responded to from our consultants. And of course, Shelly has AI tools to make sure Ben is effective, because although we can review every chat, there are hundreds of thousands of chat transcripts. And so there's no way that Shelly's going to view all those. So she has other AI tools that review the transcripts and tell her what kinds of conversations are happening. She has other tools that help her effectively train Ben, testing AI coworkers. That's a whole other conversation. It's very different in the notion of AI. It's not normal software. It's not normal QA process. It's very, very different nowadays. So all those tools that help Shelly be effective. Shelly's not a technology person. She's very, very good at technology, but she's not a software developer or anything like that. And so we have a bunch of suite of AI tools that she can use. But going back to your first question, I think at the end of the day, I don't think that we want layers and layers of AI being deployed in our organization. I think we need to continue to have humans intertwined in that, whether it's as managers or supervisors or testers or something like that. Because at the end of the day, the AI is a reflection of humans. It's not like, again, people think about AGI and fully autonomous thinking machines. Well, no, they're just a reflection of society. They're a reflection of your organization. And so you want to make sure the humans are still involved in that, because then there'll be a reflection of those humans. And so if you find the best people in your organization to manage AI, it often is just an amplification of their best qualities. So
Yeah.
the AI is a great way to spread really good human talent in your organization, because they mirror what your humans are doing.
As you were describing, Shelley, Vinay, I was thinking back to 2023 when the hottest job was prompt engineer. What you're describing sounds like a new role, an AI coach or AI whisperer, but still with that deep domain expertise. Is this how people should be thinking about the evolution of some of their jobs?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we've all gotten used to, and again, if you think about software development, many of your listeners might be in that field. There are great software engineers now, senior developers, who spend most of their time just telling AI what to do. They're not actually writing code, they're just instructing AI, and they've learned a new skill there on how to instruct AI to effectively write software. And there's a marked difference between somebody who knows how to do that well versus not. It's not a very hard skill to learn, but it's still a skill unto itself. And so I think that there is a new class of work that is really around how to orchestrate AI to achieve tasks. And you mentioned deep domain knowledge. I think that Ben's domain expertise has exceeded Shelley's. But that's okay.
Interesting.
Because Ben is, got access to the internet. It's got access to deep knowledge sets. It's always going to know more than what a human could know. That's not really the point. The point is, does it know how to frame questions in the right way? Does it know how to frame and talk about things in the right way? Does it know how to think about problems in the right way? That's where the human comes in, because the human deeply understands what the other human on the receiving side of this needs to see. And so it's that deeper knowledge of human behavior that the supervisor brings to bear. Some of the things that Shelley does really, really well is that she knows really intimately what our consultants need to hear every day and how they need to be helped, because she was a consultant for decades. And so she can put herself in the shoes of those benefits consultants, think about their daily job, workflow and schedule and what would be beneficial for them, and then shape Ben to meet those needs. And so that role that Shelley plays is more of an orchestrator, more, as you said, more of a coach than an actual telling Ben exactly what to say and what it knows. Well, Ben's going to always exceed that because it's AI. It's really smart. It's got access to all the information in the world.
I feel like we're hearing all the goodness of Ben. As you think more broadly about all your AI coworkers, what would you say was one of the biggest early wins, or I don't like the word failure, let's say an experiment that you learned from, that you would encourage other chief product officers to avoid or pay attention to?
I think that the notion or dream of a true agentic autonomous AI agents is very difficult to achieve in a large corporate environment. And I think that the ROI needs to be thought of very clearly. There's a reason why we trended towards the coworker concept and the idea of cognition as opposed to automation. So our coworkers are designed to help our people think, as opposed to helping them just do a job and automate that. Because automation is really, really difficult. Our entire companies are intertwined with humans and technology, and trying to eliminate humans 100% is really challenging. And so what I would say is that you do need to look at the cost of integrating AI agents into your systems, what the failure rates are going to be, how often you need to have a human in the loop, and whether that is actually worthwhile. So everybody knows their organizations intimately, so I can't tell you exactly what metrics they'll need to look at, but I would be very skeptical of the agentic approach. Now, if you manufacture cars, sure, absolutely. And you've probably been doing that for years. But I think for many knowledge-based economy companies that have knowledge workers, automation 100% is still very difficult to achieve. So be careful on that. The bigger concept that I really worry about and keeps me up at night, and we've certainly had our sprinklings of failures on this, is the equity issue when it comes to AI. I worry about the fact that we have people in our company that have better AI skills or just frankly better access to AI or AI models than the next person. And again, we spend a lot of time making sure that we have ubiquitous availability of AI within our company. So I don't think that it's happening as much in our organization. But when I talk to HR leaders again, I remind them that there are probably people in their company using AI every single day that they don't know about at all. In fact, I can guarantee it because we all use it in our personal lives. And so when I fire up AI and I use it to help me do my job, I'm getting ahead of my colleagues. And is that fair? Is that okay that that's being done? It's not like saying I'm better at Excel than the next person or I'm a better PowerPointer than the other person. This is saying like I have availability of human knowledge to me and my colleague does not. And all of a sudden I can get access to more promotions. I can get access to economic opportunity. My salary will go up. And I worry about the divide that we'll see within companies for the people who have access to AI and those who don't, or worse yet, people who have access to better AI than those who don't. And that, I think, is not something we're talking enough about in the country today. And again, I implore HR leaders to really think deeply about that because it's going to affect their company, if not already.
Yeah, so that's a really heavy, deep topic, Vinay. And I think there's a couple levels. It's what is the company responsible for in enabling the learning of these technologies? Now, I do think some organizations say, well, here's access to whatever, Udemy, Coursera, go learn. And then there's others where it's really up to the individual. And I still will say it is up to the individual. You care more about your career and your employability than anyone. So you've got to prioritize that. And when you bring up the societal level, I look at some of the work that you've done now for more than a decade for Design for Change USA. So empowering the young people to learn skills and what have you. So I guess how much of this is, well, sorry, nobody's going to do this for you. We've been through some of these mass transformations before. Is this a company problem? Is this an individual problem? Or is it a societal problem?
Well, it's always a lot of everything.
Yeah.
And, the one thing I love about this country is that we do put an emphasis on the individual. And so there's opportunity for anybody to achieve whatever they dream of. Obviously, that's a loaded statement and there's lots of caveats to it and lots of inequities that exist in our society. But generally, that's the cultural norm. That's the way that we approach our thinking. And that's something I think is really valuable for us as a country and as a society. But at the same time, though, there's a role that government and employers play in making sure that there's a level playing field and there's a level starting point. And I think about broadband access as a good example of this. We spent billions of dollars making sure that all corners of the country have access to broadband. And it was very expensive to do it when we had to lay fiber, and now it's a lot cheaper with wireless. And there are still parts of the country that don't have broadband. And if you don't have broadband access, you can't access education. We hear stories about, a mother parking their car in a McDonald's parking lot so their child can get Wi-Fi for free so they can do their homework. There's still things like that happening. Now, replace broadband with AI, right? And now the difference being you either have broadband or you don't, right? You could have a little bit of faster internet so you can watch more videos, or a little bit slower internet, but it's pretty black and white. You have internet access or you don't. AI is a lot more complicated because
Yes.
all of a sudden, it's not that you have access to AI or you don't. You can have access to mediocre AI, or you can have access to superhuman, super powerful AI. And the layers of inequity make this a lot more complicated. And I think that's the role that both government and employers have to worry about, is that you could say, sure, I've given everybody Microsoft Copilot. I'm done. Check the box. We did it. We paid the Microsoft a bunch of money. Now everybody has access to AI. But what about some of those employees who are using a better AI than Copilot, of which there are many, right? And we all know that the models are changing quicker than we can keep track of, and there's new things every day. And all of a sudden, you have a group of employees who are superhuman all of a sudden, and they're the ones getting all the great opportunities. Again, I ask the question, is that fair, right? And think of the hypothetical when you hire a new accountant and that accountant says, well, I have 2 years of experience, but my AI that I'm going to bring with me that's secure with your data and all these things is going to come with 10 more years of experience, versus somebody who's been in the workforce for a decade or two. He says, look, I have real experience. Which is better? Who's going to get the job? Maybe I can pay that person who's got 2 years of experience 30% less, but the AI makes them better than the person with a couple of decades of experience. Like, that's a real thing, right?
Yes.
And again, it's not like saying, oh, well, I can work from home. I've got broadband, check the box. No, it's a lot more complicated than that. So these are the questions that we have to grapple with. I don't have a simple answer in any of these things, but we're not thinking about these things nearly as much. We spend a lot of time thinking about who's building the chips. Does China have better AI? Like, those are all really important questions as well. But there are things happening in our society, in our workforces, in the AI that exists today. It doesn't need to get any better for these problems to still be there and to still infiltrate every corner of our society. And so we need to be talking about these. We need regulatory solutions. We need societal solutions. We need corporate solutions. So everybody needs to start getting in here and figuring this stuff out. There's going to be a new way of working, a new way of thinking that we need more thinkers.
For sure. So it's multifaceted. I often think, Vinay, I wish more people would just pay attention to the safety benchmarks of these models. You've given me even a loftier framing. So thank you for that. Let's switch a little bit to your career journey. You've had so many interesting roles and I would say an unusual path. Early on, an MIT Media Lab researcher, and then serial founder, CTO, CPO. What's been the consistent thread in some of the problems you've chosen to tackle?
I tend to think that most of my career has really been on the edges of technology and people. I've never been a deep sort of computer scientist. I never went to university. I'm reminded I'm back at in the city that I grew up in, and I always drive by the high school and show my kids, this is where I went to high school. I can't show them where I went to university because I didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So I've had a little bit of an unusual path, and thankfully very supportive parents that were okay with their immigrant family for that to be the path that we took. It's not normal. So I've always sort of done things a little bit differently. And that's been a pretty consistent element of my career. And I've been an entrepreneur from a very young age. I've always been doing little businesses since I've been a teenager, young teenager. So those things have been really a bedrock of everything. And in fact, my role here at One Digital is the first time I've ever worked at a company that I have not started or been acquired by.
Oh, fascinating.
So this is a unique role for me, and which I'm very much enjoying, and it's a great organization, so I picked the right place to do that. It's been unusual, and I think that that's a little bit of how I think about my kids' career paths, I have 4 children, ages 14 to 7 months. So everything in between. And I think a lot about what my kids are going to do in life. And we all want them to just be happy and pick a career that makes them happy. But I try to remind myself that whatever careers that I think of exist today, it's going to be very different in the future. So we tend to really focus on just core skills and how to help them be better humans in the end, because that's the only thing that I can at least be sure that will be relevant and important. Everything else is up for grabs. And I think that that's a little bit of how I've sort of led my life, is just try to be a good human and be okay with change all around you constantly.
Yeah, so designed for versatility, I would say.
That's right.
It sounds. So I have to ask, what was your first startup in high school?
Well, my first real thing that I did, there was a little things that I did before. So if you remember back in the day of shareware, that was like way back in the day, mid 90s, where you would buy software on the internet, the early days of the internet, and they would be feature restricted or time restricted. And so I built a little piece of software that would turn the clock back on your computer so that it would break the time restriction.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So a little bit of hacking there.
Yes. That was a little bit of I did remember getting some hate mail on that, which I apologize to for that. But the first real company I built was a piece of software that helped teachers manage computer labs in their classrooms. It was actually, the software is called Classrooms. And we would stamp CDs in our basement and put them in boxes and send them to schools all around Canada and the United States, and drive to places. And I was doing this all with my brother. He's a couple of years older than me, so he was sort of the business person. I was the tech person. And yeah, we did this mostly through high school. I was one of those kids that really didn't attend a lot of classes and just was trying to build my business. And we eventually raised our first round of venture capital, which was, this is late 90s. So it's pretty unique for a couple of young kids to raise money. And we eventually sort of pivoted that company into something else that was all in the remote support business. So we built software to help companies support their computers remotely. And that turned out to be a venture-backed startup that we eventually were acquired by Computer Associates back in 2006. So
yeah, fascinating.
Really like twists and turns journey early on in my career.
But then it also makes sense that you also have been a startup advisor for about 20 years now. As you think about this time in our industry, what do you believe creates lasting value for AI and data products today?
I'm kind of glad that I was in the SaaS business at the time that I was, and no longer is sort of in the B2B SaaS space, because I think it's really hard to be successful as a software business today, because basically the cost to development of software is zero.
Yeah.
There's no more sort of uniqueness in that I have the best software engineers. I have the best software product. It's so easy for people to build things. And I think if you're selling into large corporate IT environments, corporations are rethinking software vendor relationships and software development because the cost has gone down so much. So you don't need a bunch of software engineers to build software for yourself. You need some, but you don't need nearly as many as you thought you did. And you certainly don't need to spend millions of dollars licensing software anymore if you could build it yourself for a lot less. So I think that the software business has changed fundamentally. Of course, I'm not the only person saying this. So what I sort of advise companies a lot is to reimagine what their software business is, that it is primarily a services business with some software behind it doing something that you uniquely built. And that services business has got to deliver outcomes and insights rather than tools and functionality. And that's going to be more and more important. You can no longer say, well, I have a snazzy software that your people can use to get better insights. We just have to deliver the insights themselves. and behind the scenes use a lot of software. So I think you're going to see a lot of software companies look a lot like consulting companies, and a lot of consulting companies look like software companies. And there's a melding of those concepts right now. And certainly you've seen that with, companies like Accenture and so on, having large technology teams, and a lot of software companies now having large services teams where they recognize that it's the human services that they provide, the insights that they're providing that are actually the unique thing. It's not just a software layer that they're selling. Of course, there are software companies that will still do very, very well. Infrastructure companies lower in the stack, so to speak. But I think if you were in the, I'm going to build a piece of software and sell millions of copies of it to companies, I think that has fundamentally changed.
Yeah. So the dynamic of services as a component, we've already seen that shift for sure from the large SIs. I would say it's a work in progress for some of the software companies or SaaS companies. The other, an interesting quote I heard, and full disclosure, this is from one of ThoughtSpot's investors, Lightspeed, but he was speaking at a public conference, so I can share it. Arif made the point that there is no moat in how you build this. It really, speed and focus are your new moats. Do you agree, disagree? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, those have always been really important. A great piece of software that you can't figure out how to distribute goes nowhere, so you do need to have speed, and distribution makes a huge difference. I still think that ultimately a very intuitive, clever insight in human behavior and what the future is going to look like is still important, right? So ideas matter. Of course, execution is the most important as well. But yeah, I think that he's right that at the end of the day, the fact that I can build software is no longer a competitive vote. That is, it's like saying to somebody, well, you can create a spreadsheet. That's your, no, it's not.
No.
Everybody could do that. It used to be like, you put on your resume, I can use Microsoft Word. Like if I saw that on a resume right now, I'd be like, I don't know, this person is hopefully have more defendable skills.
Yes.
So, the bar's just gone higher up. And writing software is not a defensible moat at all. You've got to find new ways to be unique and differentiating. And I think that just puts more emphasis on entrepreneurs to have greater insights into what people need and find the best way to get it to them. Nothing's changed about that. We are still humans and we're very hard to change, and we still act like humans, and they want to be compelled that this is a problem that I didn't even know I had, but now I do, and I really want that solution. That hasn't changed. So you just got to stay focused on the fundamentals, I think, not try to think that the way in which you do things or some secret capability that you have is your competitive note. That's not really the case anymore.
Such great wisdom. Thank you, Vinay. We're going to switch to a fun lightning round. Short questions. What do you enjoy doing outside of work when you're not immersed in the world of data and AI?
Well, as I mentioned, I have 4 kids, so that is pretty much consumes everything.
And quite a range.
Yeah, tread a range. So just trying to be a loving husband and father is the only other thing that I try to do outside of work.
Perhaps the most important thing. Who's someone, famous or not, that really inspires you?
Well, I'm going to be cliche here and say my parents really inspire me. My father passed away a couple of decades ago, but his memory and his way of living life inspires me. My stepdad now, who's nearing the end of his life, is inspiring to me. My mother is inspiring to me, certainly. So I tend to think about them in my head more often than others in terms of how they've lived their lives, and something that I always try to embody, sometimes looking at it and saying, I don't want to be like that. And then I do want to be more like that. And then I try to think about like that and how I interact with my own children and what I want them to take from me and not take from me.
Yeah.
And how to be a person.
for sure. As my kids were home over the holidays, and I call them kids, but they're 29 and 27. I'm like, I wish you got all the good things from me, but not my bad quirks.
I always remind myself, I'm going to screw up my kids in some way. Just don't screw them up in the same way I got screwed up.
Exactly. How about a book or a podcast that has significantly influenced your thinking?
Yeah, I really enjoy, like, obviously there's a lot of AI stuff out there, but one of the more less AI and more general, I really enjoy Scott Galloway's stuff. He's very popular now, but he's spending a lot of time talking about raising boys and raising men. So I have one daughter, she's the eldest, but then 3 boys. So I think a lot about what kind of boys I want to raise in today's society. And I think that that's something, we're now talking much more about, thanks to folks like Scott and others. But I think that that's an everyday concept that I consider and try to learn more about and reflect on my own life very deeply about what kind of boys I want to raise and what kind of brothers I want to have to my daughter, because she's going to think of men in the way that she sees me and the other boys and men around her. So that's something that I again think about and try to read about as much as I can.
Good. And the last one, an accomplishment from the last week that you are particularly proud of.
Something I'm grateful for nowadays is the fact that I can do so much from my phone. I can build a piece of software from my phone. When we had, I have a 7-month-old, so when the baby was even younger, I spent a lot of time, just rocking the baby to sleep, feeding the baby and so on in the middle of the night. I could blast out a new piece of software on my phone. Right? And that is like wonderful, and so grateful to like scratch that itch of wanting to be a builder by just tapping away on my phone and building a piece of software in like lightning speed. One thing I'm grateful for is that I have not done that for the last week. I've not, maybe I have once, but I've not tempted into pulling out my phone and getting lost in the world of work and AI, and rather been proud about being more present this past week and just trying to hang out and be free. And so I think that's something we should all strive for. Of course, it's very, very difficult to do, but it makes life so much better.
That is an accomplishment to be proud of. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for taking a minor break from your holidays to record this podcast with us. And thank you for being on The Data Chief, Vinay.
Thank you, Cindy. It's been wonderful.